Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we got a 1988 Jeep Wrangler YJ in the shop with a 4.2 straight six. This Jeep came in with a fuel issue. Basically there was a electronic fuel pump installed, and the owner's having problems getting fuel up to the carburetor. And I found a bunch of other issues with not running correctly. We're going to do a full inspection on a carburetor and ignition components. So let's get started. All right, so along the way somebody installed an electronic fuel pump and decided to do away with the mechanical system, the mechanical fuel pump that was stock on this. It does have the stock Carter BBD carburetor. These are pretty infamous for being pretty crappy. It's got pretty much a computer controlled choke. I believe there's no mixture adjustment on this. I have to do a little bit more research. I've never really dealt with a BBD. They've always, if I worked on a YJ, is either a Weber or a Ford carburetor that was retrofitted on here. Some of the issues I found is there's no check valve in the fuel system. It might have been deleted when somebody put in this electronic pump. Also, I got my vacuum gauge hooked up. The engine's not making vacuum like it's supposed to be. I believe the timing's a little bit too advanced. Also, pulled a spark plug. Let's get this in the sun here. Let it focus. But basically, this has heavy ash deposits. You can see how corroded the electrode is and the ground strap. What this is telling me is this engine's had a lot of detonation, and also it's probably been burning a lot of oil, so it's probably got some worn out valve seals, and looks like it's been a little too lean. So we'll try to remedy that as much as possible. We're on a budget repair on this. Also, we got a loose distributor cap. So I'm gonna pull the cap, inspect the cap and rotor, and check the vacuum advance on it. But just this alone right here will, make this thing not run very good. So let's start tearing it apart. All right, so I got the cap off. Here's the rotor. As I pulled it, you can see a lot of deposits on it. So we'll go ahead and clean it up. Also inspect the tip. It looks okay. What you can do is take the cap off completely, which I'm not going to do because I really don't feel like putting the wires all back where they but anyway, you're just going to put it in here, and you're going to line it up with the spring tab here where it comes from the coil to feed the current through this tip to hit the studs on the distributor cap. And you can kind of check the wear like that. So if there's too much of an air gap, it's going to give you a misfire. This air gap looks pretty good, so we're not going to replace this cap or rotor. Just clean it up a little bit. Take you a little bit of a Scotch-Brite or sandpaper, clean it up a little bit, and put it back. Also, you check your exciter ring. This has electronic ignition. There's no points on this. Everything looks good down there. Also, your vacuum advance. Make sure that's connected. The hose looks good for that, and also the linkage. You can check the linkage on it. It also looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back together. Put the spark plug back in, and I'll show you how bad it's running. And then I'm going to go get some new spark plugs, and then from there we're going to check timing, adjust timing if necessary, and also mess with the carburetor. All right, I got the camera to focus a lot better, but you can see up close what I'm talking about with these ash deposits. So, yeah, the spark plug's done. All right, so some of the symptoms, we've got obviously a bad surging idle. I did increase the idle a little bit on this. It was only idling about 500 RPM. So the main thing is you can hear the exhaust, all that pop, and that's normally the sign of a too advanced ignition and a lean condition on the carburetor. And on our vacuum gauge, we got an okay vacuum. We want to try to get this around 20 if possible. It's on the lower end. All right, so to adjust to the distributor, you're gonna have a 1/2 inch head bolt down there at the very stem of the distributor. You're just gonna loosen that up a little bit, because if you loosen it up too much, the distributor will vibrate. And to advance the timing, you're gonna go, this is gonna go counterclockwise. If you want to retard the timing, you're gonna do it clockwise. So I added some advance to it, and the engine seemed to smooth out a lot. And we picked up about 3 inches of vacuum. So we go ahead and, right now our RPM is about 780. I wanted a 750 park idle and about a 650 gear idle. This is an automatic Jeep with automatic transmission. So I'm going to go ahead and see what the timing is with the timing light. So we're sitting at about 25 degrees. The engine's seeming to like that a lot. All right, so I picked up some new spark plugs. They're Autolite 985s. The gap on these is 33 thousandths to 38 thousandths. So I'm going to go ahead and set these to 35. So what you got to do is get your feeler gauge. You can have the disc type feeler gauge, the wire type, doesn't matter. Just set it to what you want. I'm splitting the difference and putting these at 35. All right, so I got all the new spark plugs in. This one is probably the worst one. This one's number 4. I'll try to focus in. I don't know why it won't let me focus. But anyway, the ash fouling got so bad, there's no more air gap on between the electrode and the ground strap. So that'd probably be a big reason why this thing was misfiring so bad. Alright, so we're going to start it back up, and we're going to look down in the carburetor, make sure our venturi and our jets are doing a nice stream of fuel. You know, if they're just dripping, we know we got a restriction in here somewhere, but if there's a nice stream, then the carburetor's doing its thing. I can't get a really good angle. Couldn't really get a good angle. They're restricted a little bit. So what you can do, instead of pulling the whole carburetor off and taking them out, just go ahead and squirt you some carb cleaner in the jets here. And then also you got, I believe this is your idle jet. These are your high-speed jets up here, and that's your low-speed jet. So I'm going to take the low-speed jet out and make sure that's all clear. Looking down, you know, you can hold the choke open, and if you spray some carb cleaner, you should be able to see it squirt way down in there if you're holding the throttle wide open, because your throttle plates are down there. The camera won't focus. But if you hold it wide open throttle, squirt it in there while looking, you should see that stream further down. Carburetor, so you got, you know, your left bank and your right bank. So what I did is I took them out, made sure they were clear, sprayed them with the carb cleaner. We got a nice stream. So we're gonna put them back to the. We're gonna adjust these via the vacuum gauge. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna put them all the way in until they stop, and then you're gonna put both screws 1.5 turns out from them being stopped. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera. I'm gonna fire the Jeep back up. We'll look at our vacuum gauge and we'll adjust them 1/4 turn a piece until we get a satisfactory reading. So you're gonna do 1/4 turn, then 1/4 turn, so they stay even. All right, so we're sitting at about 19 inches of vacuum, about 750 RPM idle. We're gonna see if we can get this to 20 inches. All right, sitting still at about 19. Our idle went up. I'm gonna go ahead and do another 1/4 turn on each. All right, we gained about 1/2 inch. Gonna do another 1/4 turn. And go ahead and do another 1/4 turn. All right, so we're right at 20 inches. Pretty happy with that. RPM's a little low. I'm gonna go ahead and just increase the RPM to get it up to about 750. All right, so yeah, I'm happy with that. We'll just verify timing again. I put the lock the distributor. We're sitting at about 21 degrees. I'm gonna go ahead and shut the Jeep off and I'll explain a little bit more. So in the book, timing called for 8 to 10 degrees before top dead center. I think that's just a little bit too late on timing, and judging by those spark plugs, they verified my theory. Also, the carburetor is pretty lean. So I put the timing, I put it to 21. The engine seemed to like that. And also the mixture adjustment, I enriched the mixture a little bit, so we got more fuel going down in there on our idle circuit. So that mixture is just for the idle circuit. That has nothing to do with your high-speed circuit. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Do a quick road test on it, put it under load and also idle. I mean, that goes to show you, don't always go by the book. You know, that'll get you, you know, pretty much a baseline. Every engine's different. You can have 50 of these 4.2s. They're all going to run different. So that's why, you know, I put the timing to where the vacuum gauge and also listening to the engine, feeling the engine, listen to the exhaust pipe. I'll go ahead and start it up again. I'll let you listen to the exhaust and you can hear the difference. There's no more popping. You know, it's running a lot smoother. So yeah, no more popping, missing. It's just a nice, smooth, monotone sound with it. I'm just going to go over a couple more things and then end the video. So anytime you're adjusting timing, verifying with vacuum gauge, or changing mix, first you want to make sure the engine's up to operating temperature, whatever that may be on your engine. And also, when you put your vacuum gauge up, it has to be port vacuum, not it has to be manifold vacuum, not port vacuum. So manifold vacuum is, your intake manifold, your brake booster if you have one. Because if you put it on port manifold, it's going to be a lot more restricted, and it's going to give you a false reading. So make sure that you always put it on your intake manifold, and if not, plumb it into your brake booster somewhere, and try to use the smallest hose you can. Get as close as to the 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch hose that you're using on your vacuum gauge. Alright, well that's going to about do it. I'm going to do a quick road test, and there shouldn't be anything else left to do except put in that fuel check valve. I'm not going to do a video on that. It's pretty self-explanatory on the installation of it, but basically the whole premise of it is carburetor's up here, your fuel tank's down here. So when it's sitting, that fuel is going to trickle down, and with the mechanical pump on these, the mechanical pump basically had a check valve in it. This one has an electric fuel pump, and nobody put in a check valve. So, all right, until next time, have a good one. And one more thing before I go, if you have any carbureted engine, whether it be a lawnmower, Jeep like this, a truck, car, whatever it is, and you're running, regular ethanol fuel, I always recommend putting mystery oil in at the recommended rate. It's going to coat all your rubber parts in your carburetor, like your accelerator pump. If you're running a mechanical fuel pump, it's going to coat those, the diaphragm in there, and it also acts as a cleaning agent. But if you want to get even better, just run ethanol free and still run this. It's not going to hurt anything, and it's fairly cheap. Also consider liking and subscribing to the channel. Still trying to grow the channel. I appreciate any support I can get. All right, until next time, have a good one.